My dad had two daughters who were the same age, my sister, Chelsea Sterling, and me, Willow Sterling. We looked so much alike that people thought we were twins, but we weren't. Chelsea was 3 months older than me. She was my dad's love child. On my 15th birthday, Dad finally finished swallowing up my grandpa's business. He brought Chelsea and her mom, Brandy, home. He looked down his nose at my mom and said, "Sarah, I put up with you for too long. I can finally be free." That night, my mom and I were kicked into the servants' quarters. After that, I studied late into the night, hoping to get a good score on the SAT so I could take my mom far away. But on the day I got my acceptance letter to Yale, Brandy looked down at me and said, "From now on, there's only one daughter in this family." Before I could react, she pushed me off the balcony. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my dad looking at me with a cold face, and my mom trying to save me. Chelsea used my face to get into college and took over my life, living happily ever after. My mom was brutally murdered after repeatedly trying to avenge me. My dad, Chelsea, and Brandy became a happy family. But this time, I won't let that tragedy happen again. A heartbreaking cry came from outside the door. "Dad, Dad, how could you just leave us like this?" I quickly opened the door and saw my mom on the floor, crying her eyes out while holding her phone. The calendar on the wall was on my 15th birthday. I was back, reliving the day my life went straight to hell. The cake and presents my mom had prepared for me were still on the table. "Willow." My mom stumbled over and hugged me. "Willow, call your dad." Grandpa jumped. Everything was exactly the same as before. Before I could react, my dad's voice came from the door. "No need. I drove that old dog to his death." To my mom's shock, my dad brought in Brandy, dressed in fancy clothes, and Chelsea, who looked almost exactly like me. "Sarah, I can't believe the Lewis family raised such a clueless, naive person. It took you 15 years to see what I was really like. Let me tell you the truth. I wouldn't have been with you if it wasn't for your family's money." My dad lovingly stroked Brandy and Chelsea's hair. "I'm so sorry for putting you and Chelsea through this. You've been homeless for so long because of my get-rich-quick scheme." Brandy and Chelsea smiled happily and snuggled up to my dad. My mom stared in disbelief, shaking all over, and fainted from the shock. My dad sneered and said to me, "Willow Lewis, no, Willow Sterling. From today on, you'll take the Sterling name. Pack up your things and move into the guest house with your mom. I'm redecorating your room for Chelsea." Brandy and Chelsea looked pleased. When my dad was young, he was poor. He only married into the Lewis family for the money, and my name took on the Lewis family name. Before my grandpa went bankrupt, he never said a word and always seemed to love my mom. So my mom and grandpa never suspected him and gave him everything without holding back. I later found out that my dad never appreciated it. He saw it as a humiliation. As soon as my grandpa died, he couldn't wait to change my name and erase everything about the Lewis family. My mom and grandpa brought a wolf into their house and spent 15 years raising it. I argued with him, fought for my mom, and refused to let Brandy and Chelsea move in. But that only made my dad angry. From then on, he not only mistreated my mom but also treated me badly. I suffered for 4 years. But this time, I didn't argue. Because I was obedient, my dad still kicked my mom and me into the guest house, but at least he didn't cut off our allowance. My mom was devastated. She woke up crying and sighing. Brandy would come to the guest house to be passive-aggressive and bossy, so my mom didn't get back on her feet for a long time. She had been babied by my grandpa since she was a child, and she was kind and weak. She only knew how to complain and didn't think about revenge. But I'm not like that. I'll always remember my grandpa, who doted on me, and Brandy and Chelsea's provocations, and my dad's bias. I wanted to get ahead by studying, so from that summer when I turned 15, my grades never dropped out of the top 3 in the class. But in the end, I was just a stepping stone for others, and it got me killed. Like before, my dad told everyone that Chelsea was my long-lost twin sister, and he transferred her to my school the next day. This time, I didn't study like crazy. I started sleeping in class. My grades dropped every month, and by the end of the semester, I was in the bottom half of the class. My homeroom teacher was heartbroken and tried to talk to me. "Willow, you used to have great grades. Why have they dropped so much?" I looked at her gratefully and thought, I just want to live. Chelsea held up her report card and looked down at me. "Willow, your mom can't beat my mom, and you're too stupid to beat me either." I ignored her and turned to leave. Chelsea wasn't happy. She grabbed my arm. "Willow, I'm talking to you. Do you hear me?" She glanced behind me and then sounded all pitiful. "Willow, I'm your sister. How can you not even say hello when you see me? Do you think I'm not good enough to be your sister because I've been homeless for so long?" I turned around and saw Chad Bennett, my childhood sweetheart. He was still 6 feet 0 inches at a young age, with a gentle appearance that could make Chelsea fall in love with him. To please Chad, I humbly made him a cake for his birthday and waited in the rain all night to give him a present. But then I saw him carrying Chelsea out of his car, and he grew further and further away from me. After I died, Chelsea became the only daughter of the Sterling family and inherited all of my grandpa's wealth, as well as my fiancé. Chelsea probably had her eye on Chad as soon as she came back to the Sterling family. She wanted the man who was supposed to marry me. Chad frowned and walked towards me, looking disapproving. "Willow, Chelsea's right. She's your sister. How can you be so rude?" Chelsea wiped away fake tears. Chad felt even more sorry for her and said to me, "Your sister is your dad's daughter, just like you. She's been homeless for years. How can you treat her like this?" I laughed. "Blame her for being the love child. If you feel bad for her, go comfort her. I won't stop you." "You." Chad looked disappointed. "Willow, I thought your grades had just dropped, but it turns out you've become a terrible person. If you keep this up, I'll tell my dad to call off the engagement." I laughed to myself and left without answering. I saw Chad comforting Chelsea, who was crying in his arms. After that, Chelsea and Chad grew closer. People saw them going in and out of the hotel next to the school, but they were too scared to say anything because the Sterling and Bennett families were rich and powerful. Chad took care of Chelsea and helped her with every test. Chelsea's grades improved a lot, and she stayed in the top half of the class, just like Chad. My grades were always terrible, and even my teachers gave up on me. Brandy would bring up Chelsea's grades in front of my mom. "What do you call it when someone surpasses someone else? A capable person is a capable person. Those who aren't good enough will be pushed out sooner or later, no matter how long they've been there." My mom was sad and confused. "Willow, you study every day. Why are your grades so bad?" I just smiled. "I'm studying because my grades are bad. I've tried my best." My dad and Brandy were happy that I was so stupid. My dad shouted, "It doesn't matter where you come from. My daughter is better than the Lewises. Brandy flattered him. Honey, Chelsea has half of their blood in her. My dad laughed. You're right. Chelsea is our child. The Lewis genes are just bad. Time flew by, and soon it was the first semester of senior year. Chad and Chelsea both scored high enough to get into college, but I barely made it. My dad was very happy. He invited Chad's parents to celebrate at home and promised that if Chelsea scored high enough to get into college, he would divorce my mom and give Brandy a title. When I heard this, I saw my mom bite her lip and tears streamed down her face. I took her hand. Mom, you still have me. Mom looked at my grades and forced a smile. I'll get you some hot water. It was winter, and the snow was falling outside. The house was warm and full of laughter, but the guest house didn't have air conditioning, so we had to use hot water bottles to keep warm. I sat in the guest house, studying for the 5th practice exam on the weekend. I finished the last answer and looked at the score. Chad suddenly appeared outside the window. I went outside. Chad stomped his feet and frowned at me. Willow, I heard your dad say you're doing badly in school, so he made you stay in the guest house. Why can't you be more like Chelsea and try harder? You have the same dad. Why is your brain so stupid? Why can't you learn? I used to apologize and say that I would try harder, but this time I just laughed. Is that what you came here to say? Chad was angry at my attitude. He kicked the snow and said, I'll tell you the truth. You're too stupid to be Chad's wife. My dad has already asked your dad to make Chelsea the marriage candidate. I wasn't surprised. Did my dad agree? Yeah, Chad sounded guilty. The announcement will be made at Chelsea's graduation party after the SAT scores come out. Chad turned to leave but came back and gave me a notebook. These are the notes I took for you. I hope you get better and better. Chad walked away, and I opened the childish notes. I laughed to myself and tore them up in the cold night. It seemed that at Chelsea's graduation party, my dad not only planned to break up with my mom but also planned to announce that I was no longer the heir to the Sterling family. I heard a sob behind me. I turned around and saw my mom holding a hot water bottle. Willow, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I'm so sorry. I shook my head and wiped away her tears. I heard my mom crying all night that cold winter night. I couldn't comfort her. In the face of reality, all words were empty. For the last test, I calmly checked my answers. This was the first time in 3 years that I had finished all the questions carefully. The correct answers that I had been suppressing were finally showing up on the answer sheet. That night, my dad, Brandy, and Chelsea were discussing the graduation party. Brandy called me over. Willow, your dad is going to have a party when your SAT scores come out, and he's going to check the scores in front of the media. You see, Brandy looked at me as if she was in a difficult position. Of course, we'll have to check both of your scores. Would you feel? She paused meaningfully. Chelsea looked guilty, but she smiled when she thought of my terrible scores. Forget it. She'll be too embarrassed to have her score checked. I smiled. Aunt Brandy, what are you talking about? My sister's scores are good, even if mine aren't. She'll look even better with me to compare her to. I don't mind. It's best to invite all the media in the city. Brandy and Chelsea looked at each other and smiled. My dad smiled. You're being reasonable. Since you're being reasonable, I'll let you have a bite to eat in the Sterling family after I divorce your mom. I lowered my head and smiled, looking obedient. The day before the scores came out, everyone in the Sterling family was preparing for the party. Chelsea was trying on dresses in the house, and Brandy gave me a dress that Chelsea didn't want. But I was in an internet cafe, looking at the pictures of Chelsea's abortion that Chad had taken her to the hospital for a few months ago. On the day of the graduation party, a lot of people came. The banquet hall was full of people, and the most influential media in the city had set up their cameras on the stage. Chelsea wore a luxurious dress, and I was wearing a dress that Chelsea didn't want. My dad pulled me and Chelsea over as everyone congratulated him. As you all know, I found my long-lost daughter Chelsea a few years ago. I've been thinking about it these days. Why would you settle a sister's marriage first? I'm going to take this opportunity to change the person who's going to marry the Bennett family to my eldest daughter, Chelsea. The crowd whispered. A reporter asked, Mr. Sterling, the Sterling and Bennett families have been engaged for more than 10 years, and the children are so old. Why would you suddenly change the candidate? Yeah, is there something else going on? My dad explained. Another reason is that Chelsea is very talented. She scored high enough to get into college, much higher than my second daughter. I think Chelsea's marriage to the Bennett family will bring better development to both families. Miss Sterling, what score do you think you got on the test? The reporter asked Chelsea. Chelsea clenched her fists and smiled when my dad encouraged her. I should have gotten over 1300. The crowd cheered. At this moment, the reporter from the biggest media company in the city suddenly received a phone call and happily said to my dad, Mr. Sterling, breaking news. Your daughter's score has been blocked. Her score is among the top 50 in the state. She's likely to be the valedictorian. The crowd cheered. My dad grabbed Chelsea's hand and said, You're my good daughter. But I saw a confused look on Chelsea's face. I smiled. That's amazing. Let's check it out. We've never seen a score that's been blocked before. Many people shouted. My dad looked at the clock and pointed to the big screen. Okay, let's all see Chelsea's excellent score. The staff started to use the computer. The media took pictures and pointed the cameras at the computer screen. After Chelsea's information was entered, the screen turned for a long time. Everyone held their breath and waited. A minute later, the screen showed a score that no one expected.